Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
2023, you guys, and I'm winging it. Hi, it's Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. That's the website, The Dork Forest, if you like a determiner. Dorkforest.com also works. JackieCation.com has all of my stand-up information. Like, it has videos, it has pictures, it has links to this podcast and to my other podcast with Lori Kilmartin. It has a merch store that has Dork Forest t-shirts. It has all of my stand-up merch and all of my CDs and DVDs. So that's what you know about websites. There's an opportunity because we're in the new year here that you can donate to the Dork Forest. I don't have a Patreon. I don't have anything really set up, though I understand you can set up on PayPal a monthly if you wanted to. You could donate and be of to support the show. This is the 17th season, the 17th year I've been putting this stuff out. It's free, but if you have money and would like to throw me some money, boy, howdy. There's a PayPal. There is at my email address, actually, Jackie@JackieCation.com, which you can also email me and tell me how much you're enjoying the show. You can also do Venmo if you'd like, which is just Jackie Cation. No hyphen, all one word. Picture of this person, me, and then I think that's it. I think I have Zelle, but it's too complicated. Other than that, let's do the credits. Patrick Brady still in, fixing the audio all these years later. Give it up to Patrick Brady. That's what a lot of your donations support, by the way, because I like to share the wealth. And then Vilmos, he does the websites, and Mike Ruekberg wrote and sang that song, composed and sang that song with his wife now, Sara. And at the end, he sings the Mexican hat dance, which is always fun. Anyway, I'm sure there's more to it. There's a Bandcamp that has a bunch. It has like a stand-up storytelling album that was never released. There's also a bunch of live episodes that many of them are free. There were 200 episodes that were not pre-recorded, and I sort of culled through those, and I pulled like 17 of the best ones. There's an album collection of that, 17 hours of Dork Forest. If you run through all of the episodes, go to bandcamp.com, Dork Forest, or Google those words, and you'll find it. Anyway, there's probably more. I can't remember any of it, but you're doing great. Feel free to enjoy the show.
It's happening. We're about to dork out. You have the fuzziest of all video, audio dealy bobs.
Yeah, it's the windscreen, the windscreen on my mic.
It is a mic windscreen. I like it. I'm using the old setup because the new setup, for some reason, the audio bleeds all over the place, and no one likes bleeding audio. Welcome to the Dork Forest. Rangers of the Dork Forest. Welcome to the Dork Forest. Me, Jackie Cation, and welcome to the Dork Forest, Sara Benincasa. Welcome.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be back in your forest of dork.
Dork, 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 dork. Tweet, 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 dork, dork. Anyway, you were on, you talked about mostly the guy who made Central Park, right?
Frederick Law Olmsted, the great love of my life. Oh yes. Oh right. Yes.
Your secret boyfriend.
And my dead celebrity boyfriend. Specifically, thank you, Jackie Cation.
Exactly. And this time you have sent me a slew of audiobooks. You like a book on Audibles? Wait, first of all, let's spell it. There's no H. Sara.
SaraBenincasa. That is, you can find me on the socials with that.
That's it. You just got yourself a Substack. So it's Sara J. Benincasa Substack.com. And you wrote a book and you have an Instagram and you're on fire. Anyway, Sara Benincasa is a delight. And we shall speak of the medium that is Audible.
Oh yeah. Well, audio books in general, because you can get them on other apps, and Audible needs to pay me if they want me to promote them. So go get Libby.
Right, you can get Libby, you get them for free.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people do.
Do Libby. I just love audiobooks.
Oh,
man.
right. Libby's from the library, if I remember correctly, because they, I believe, advertised on my other podcast.
Ooh.
Is it easy to use, Libby?
I don't know because I feel like
What do
I
you
should
use?
use it. I use Audible and I feel bad.
I use Audible because my brother Phil has an Audible account that I have hijacked, and he gets credits every month. He doesn't use them. I can buy whatever I want. And then sometimes he says, take me to lunch. Those are like $20 a piece, Jackie. Anyway, so I take him to lunch.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love my brother Steve and I are both big fans, but I pay whatever I pay per month. I think it's either $14.95 or $19.99. It's probably $19.99. I forgot what it is, but I pay per month to get my one credit. And my brother won't do that. So he only like does the ones that are, I don't know what the cheap subscription is, but he does that for the ones that are included with your subscription.
We should totally all be using Libby. We should totally all be using
We
Libby.
should. I don't know why I'm not.
Lori Kilmartin, I think, uses Libby, and she enjoys an audiobook as well. Do you do a written word? Do you do a book as well? Do you also enjoy a book?
I do. I've written books and
Right.
I've recorded two of them.
Did you get to record it? Did you get to record it?
Two of them, 2 of the 4 I've recorded myself. One was at Audible headquarters in Newark, New Jersey. And the other one was, I think, at Penguin Random House Audio. I think that's what it is, out in like Westlake or something, like out in the hinterlands of Los Angeles.
I did a couple of things. I did a couple of things for Audible, and they always had me go to some just random and then just phone in and then record things. So
they'll just like patch
weird
you in.
Series. They, for some reason, Audible, when they first got bought by Amazon, they lost their minds and they're like, we're going to have fresh new content. And so they paid a bunch of comics to do things. And I was paid a small stipend that I enjoyed to read a book. And there's a book that I wrote a couple of chapters for called Comedy Film Nerds. Comedy Film Nerds. I wrote about science fiction or fantasy, one of those, and musicals, because I like a musical, though I don't know I am just enthused. I've had musical dorks on where I'm just like, Sondheim who? And then
I've only been to one Sondheim show ever, and it was very recent.
Which one?
I went with some friends to see what is that one? Into the Woods. It was Into the Woods. Yeah.
Right.
I liked it a lot.
It's funny, it's smart, it's dark, it's
depressing. Yeah, the second half is very depressing. It was cool.
But it was very cool. And but these are not, so you read regular books too.
I do read regular books, but I will say that the last one I read was called oh God, now I'm even forgetting the title. My brain is nuts, but it was the most recent mixed media graphic book novel memoir from Mari Naomi, Marinaomi. They are a great individual, very groovy, non-binary individual. And I read their most recent memoir and it is wonderful. And so it's drawings, but then it's also, they went into the archives of basically their whole life to figure out why a friendship went wrong.
How old are they?
They are 49, maybe 48, 49, something like that.
Seems early for memoirs. I mean, I know people.
I wrote mine when I was like 29. When they were just, it was because like Schumer's shit was popping off. So they just were like, are you a white woman who seems vaguely troubled? Here's a fucking, because publishing is inherently a white supremacist institution. They were like, let's do more of white women. Here you go. And so that was when I wrote a memoir called Agora Fabulous Dispatches from My Bedroom, which I'm still proud of, and I'm still really glad I got to write it. But
sure,
there are one of my favorite audiobooks that didn't make my list is one I'm still listening to because I read the book, which I blurbed, which is by my friend Brianna Holt, which is called In Our Shoes on Being a Young Black Woman in Not So Post-Racial America. And she's a great audiobook narrator of her own story. Like you really feel like she's just telling you the story. And that's a particular kind of audiobook narrator that I like. And when somebody narrates a memoir and it's the person who wrote the memoir, you should feel like they're just telling you the story. So I do recommend In Our Shoes, but that's not one of my 10.
Right. You picked 10. And I am, a lot of people who've written books is what I'm getting from this initial thing.
Yeah, because
and-
as an author and as a comic,
I might, but all I know is Kilmartin, and I guess Maria's got a new book. coming out.
Bamford's on my list. I mean, it wasn't
Bamford
a book
is on
that
your
she
list.
did, but I will call it an audiobook. But yeah, and you know me and you know other people. And because when you're a comedian who writes a book, and I don't do stand-up anymore, although I will come out of retirement for a check and do okay to shitty stand-up. But
She's available, you guys.
I'm available if you want something middling, and because the Writers Guild's on strike, I'm not selling something else right now. But if when you are known as a funny person who has hosted a radio show, which I did for a couple of years, and different things, you get asked to moderate or Q&As. It'll be like authors in conversation, and
So
they'll
if
want
I
an
write
author
a
to
book,
moderate.
that will
Yes.
be, I'll get some talking head work.
That's how you get that hot public book
Sweet.
festival Q&A gig where you're probably going to make $100 at most, probably nothing, but you might get like a really good spread. Like the LA Times Book Festival has a really, really good, they got good food they do it at USC, and they have really good food, and it's fun because it's always a lot of like celebrities who paid a ghostwriter, and it's like hot celebrities there. So that's fun. You see, and then you see just like regular dorks like myself. So highly recommend writing books so you can go there and like,
Or just go to that LA Book Fest and sit and watch a panel too.
no, yeah, do that. But if you want to get in the green room for the authors,
right, right.
There's so many authors, write a book or be an author's friend attaché for the
A plus one.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm listening to Brianna, who wrote In Our Shoes, Brianna Holt. I'm listening to her audiobook after reading the print book, and it's fun. I like accessing the information in different ways.
That's what I was thinking about. So I have the list right in front of me. Should I start at the first one with this James Baldwin one?
Hex yes.
The Fire Next Time, James Baldwin.
Yeah, that's a
I've read
classic.
so little James Baldwin because they're super smart and they're hard to read. So sometimes I don't read them.
Well, The Fire Next Time is really good. It's pretty short. It's good. And it's read by, I believe, Jesse L. Martin. Is that who reads that one? Let me look at my guide. I think it's actor Jesse L. Martin who,
yes, it is.
Who has a mellifluous voice.
Is it what's called fiction?
No, it is a nonfiction account. It's basically framed as a letter to, I believe, his nephew. And so it's a really beautiful book. He was, for folks who don't know, he's a really foundational queer Black activist who wrote extraordinary things, and was also, if you can watch video about James Baldwin, video of his appearances on different talk shows in the 60s, it's really extraordinary to watch as well. But it's very moving, it's very good, it's lyrical, it's beautiful, highly recommend. And in the hands of, I mean, he's in great hands with the narrator, Jesse L. Martin, who does beautiful. Jesse Martin. There's a Jesse Martin, there's a Jesse L. Martin. I always screw it up, but
this says Jesse Martin.
It does. It says Jesse Martin. I don't know. Okay. So it's Jesse Martin.
And how long is it? Do you like a long? My brother sometimes picks books by the length.
Let me look. I can tell you.
He likes a 26-hour book. That's because he likes to drive a lot.
This is short. So The Fire Next Time is 2 hours, 25 minutes long.
Oh my God. That is super short.
Yeah, it's great. It's really, you can listen to it on a flight. You can listen to it whenever. I've listened to it a couple times. Sometimes I'll listen to something as I fall asleep. And then once I'm done with that, I'll listen to it again when I'm driving.
Yeah. I'm re-listening right now to a Sherlock Holmes book that isn't a Sherlock. It's a a reimagining of Sherlock Holmes. There's 1,000 of them. And this one is written by this woman who, the reimagining is just a Victorian English woman.
Cool.
Who is essentially Charlotte Holmes, who cannot be Sherlock Holmes because of sexism. And she has pretty much what would now be called autism, because she's
Wow.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And she's functioning, but she's not psyched about it, right? I mean, the I'm functioning, but it's the diagnosis is it's a spectrum, obviously. It's a
Oh yeah,
um,
of course.
yeah,
Autism
and
spectrum disorder, ASD. I mean, it is a spectrum. It's built into the name.
it's
Some
right.
people reject the notion that it's a disorder, and I appreciate that. I have a sister-in-law who is a special education teacher, and I have an autistic nephew, and I have some autistic friends. So I get that there are different advocacy groups generated from different corners of the community, but everybody seems to agree it's a fucking spectrum. It's
And
not all the same.
nope. Everybody doesn't have a rash. So yeah, there's you and cannot be treated in the same way.
Mhm.
But okay. So yeah, so that's a very short book. And it's
Yeah.
and it's just so it must be just 150 pages or so, right?
I think it's less than that. I mean, if you see it, it's a really slim volume when you see The Fire Next Time by itself. Sometimes it's, I think, published paired with some of his other writings.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's beautiful. And I just sort of, when you asked for, like 10, I picked my top 10 all timers, some of which I haven't listened to in a while because there are so many others that I love. It was really hard. So I just was like, Sarah, go with your top 10 all timers that made a deep impression on you.
Right. And it doesn't, and that's the thing about the Dork Forest is that it's a finite amount of time. And you get to the end of it and you're like, but I have 3,700 things to talk about this thing.
I have 306 titles in my library. And those are just ones I haven't returned.
Malcolm X.
Yeah, the autobiography of Malcolm X by Malcolm X with the late great Alex Haley, who wrote Roots. Oh my God, I started playing it by accident. You don't get free, you don't get any free stuff, Audible. I know it's evil that we need to be on Libby because why are we giving Amazon more money? But yeah, this is fantastic because it's Lawrence Fishburne narrating it, and this is 16 hours and 52 minutes, and it is chef's kiss. Spectacular performance, wonderful work.
That's amazing. I read it in college, and it kind of blew my mind in the way that my racism has always been very introverted, very just systemic. I don't have any power. I've just been benefiting from it for 1,000 years, right?
Yeah, it's a kind of passive thing that a lot of white gals like us get to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I relate to that. Me too.
Yeah, and it's. I would never say that I'm not racist because I have sat by. I have sat by and not stood up. And well, those days are over, people, because I have nothing to lose now. Feel free to kill me. And because I've
don't kill Jackie,
Please
but she will fuck some shit up. She's tired and she's not on the sidelines anymore. And this is a beautiful thing.
I am not on the sidelines anymore, I've decided. But that book was, and it was Alex Haley, who also, am I correct, wrote Roots?
Wrote Roots.
Yep.
And it was just an extraordinary voice. And he wrote it with Malcolm X. And it's beautiful. And Lawrence Fishburne does a fantastic job. I mean, that voice, whether it is whatever one of his iconic roles is you're into Lawrence Fishburne, doesn't matter because this is it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And it's much more like, he's not doing Morpheus, he's not doing Ike Turner. He's not doing the dad or whoever he was, I forget, in Akeelah and the Bee. He is being the narrator of this a beautiful, beautiful work. And he does not attempt to do, to my mind, at least, it's always hard, I think, when you're an actor who has to portray a very well-known figure. So he's not doing like, trying to do a dead-on Malcolm X impersonation. That's not what I hear in it. But he picks up on certain patterns of speech and cadence, tone, and rhythm. I don't know. I would be very curious to hear how he did this. And so there's a nod to it. So you're listening to it and it allowed, I forgot I was listening to Lawrence Fishburne, but I didn't necessarily think, oh, Malcolm X is reading this to me. So he really hit that sweet spot where you as the reader get to go in. And there's also some beautiful music introducing each chapter, like just little moments that were great. If I recall correctly, I think it's for every chapter.
So, yeah, so it's more of a, like the ones that you're picking so far, and there's just two, seem to be production values on them. They've put some work into it. They've taken time to
Yeah.
pick the right voice to read the thing, because when I read the book, I remember I was like, I had been doing stand-up comedy for about 2 years. And all I could think was Red Fox knew Malcolm X when he was, when they both worked at this restaurant in Harlem in the 40s. And
It's really cool.
yeah, and you're just like, well, when I think about the number of people that I know in Los Angeles, of course I'm going to run into, like, whenever I run into someone, I mean, it's like, no, we've met. I don't know why or how, but there was some overlap with somebody who then goes on to become hugely famous, or whether it's in stand-up or in whatever their field is, right? You end up going to some yoga class or something, and then all of a sudden,
Oh
you're like,
yeah.
what is that person doing on CNN? And you're
Yeah,
like,
no, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much that. You're living, I mean, when you move among these types of people, you're living out history. We're all living out history, but when you get to move among these types of people, especially if you're in a city that's littered with them, you're going to run into each other. And if you have common
that's
interests, you might end up at the same shit. You know?
might. And in New York in the 40s, Red Fox is doing stand-up, or about to, and Malcolm X, whose nickname was also Red, but I can't remember his full name. Malcolm X's full name.
It's been a hot minute since we're gonna look this up right now, because
Because too many people are yelling at their phones right now.
like, you idiot, because I'm forgetting everything, including the names of actual people, friends, books and stuff. Malcolm Little, and then he was El Haj Malik El Shabazz. Lived May 19th, 1925.
But when he was Malcolm Little is when it happened. Yeah.
Yes. And they called him, his nickname was, it incorporated. Yeah, but it was something else too. Like, because he was a cool dude in Boston, actually. He was a cool guy. And like, I mean, it's just amazing hearing all his stories, and
the stories are fascinating. And
his mom being committed to a state hospital after having a nervous breakdown, and like, just
right.
I mean, it's just, and hearing, it's been like 2 years since I listened to this, but hearing Lawrence Fishburne tell the tales is so amazing. I'm so glad I have a computer that I'm sort of weirdly operating in the form of a phone.
I'm going to let you look up that, and we're going to take a quick break. And we're back, and you're still looking it up, because did you enjoy that? Was that an ad? Did everybody?
I did.
Enjoy that?
I enjoyed it. I'm going to buy whatever that was. Probably. He had red hair, and his name was Detroit Red. That's what they called him.
Yeah,
because he was from the Midwest, much like yourself. One of many similarities. And then at one point was shipped off to live with, I think he was shipped off to live with relatives in Boston, if I remember correctly. And that's when he got into, well, he lived in like a nice home with his nice family, but he was up to shenanigans. And I don't mean that it was like a super fancy home, but just like, he lived with, I think his big sister Ella, like, because he was one of several siblings, and I think, Ella was, I think her name was Ella. I think she was from her first marriage. Anyway, listen, this is a very, very good audiobook. Listen to it. Autobiography of Malcolm X.
And listen to it over and over again, because once you buy it on Audible, quite honestly, it's yours. I listen to things over and over and over again.
Jackie, may I swap out my next one, which was going to be The Wild Heart of Stevie Nicks by Rob Sheffield, an Audible original, but I'm going to tell you, there's a different one that I would prefer people select because it's incredible.
Oh, which one is it?
Creative Quest by Questlove, which is not exclusively from any app. You can get it across the apps. The book Creative Quest by Questlove is fantastic. It's all about creativity and interviews with people and research and his own experience. But the audiobook is one of the best audiobooks I've ever heard in my life. It is fully produced. He has guest actors come in. He has music that he or others have composed. It is wonderful. I got the book. I think I was like, what was I doing? I was chicken sitting for my agent as one does, in Boulder,
Sara
Colorado.
Sara Benincasa, chicken sits, you guys.
I was chicken sitting for my agents, Sean and Darlene, with Collective Speakers, book me to speak at your school about mental health awareness or creative writing, or perhaps your workplace about creativity. Who can say? collectivespeakers.com. Anyway, I was chicken sitting at their house because at the time they had chickens in a little farm. And I went into town in Boulder and I bought a bunch of stuff. And one of the things was this book, which was new at the time, by Questlove. And later I loved the book, but later I listened to the audiobook. And the audiobook is just, I think I was driving around Boston when I listened to it, actually. It's so good, Jaggy. It's so good.
What, and is it just memoirs again? Are we talking more memoir?
All about, it's Questlove's book, all about creativity. He's done a few books, but this one is all about creativity and helping you be more creative, and just telling you what led him to certain songs, certain sounds, what he's witnessed in people who he thinks are just the greatest at what they do, including chefs. Like it's not just about music.
Okay.
And he produces it. I think he directed it. I'm not sure. So good.
Okay. And it's, yeah. That is amazing. So yeah, what is the Stevie Nicks book though? Is that another?
It's just an Audible original. Rob Sheffield, the journalist, does it, and it's just all about the wild heart of Stevie Nicks. It's very good. So if you have Audible, I would listen to it if you're a Stevie Nicks fan. It's just his reporting and research, and it's good.
She was in that band.
Yeah, she was in the Rolling Stones.
The Stevie Nicks was not in the Rolling Stones.
She was the drummer, and then they kicked her out. And now she's the president of Belgium.
Fleetwood Mac.
Yes.
There we go. I literally was like, was she in the fucking Rolling Stones at one point? I was taken for a buggy ride. You had me real close there, Sara Benincasa.
Yes. I'm not even an improv comedian. Can you believe it? But I improvised that. I'm just a writer over here.
And the only reason I know that is because there is a previous episode about how great Fleetwood Mac is, and then how great Stevie Nicks is. And I did not know that Stevie Nicks was in Fleetwood Mac because her name is neither Fleetwood nor Mac.
No. It's named after other people in the band, but she's still
who are named
Fleetwood and Mac.
Right.
McV.
Right. And yet she is, I was told she is Fleetwood Mac, and I was like, and yet no name. But she's supposed to be epic, and that's
yes, because she and Lindsey Buckingham were together. They joined the band when it was already Fleetwood Mac. It had been a very successful band already, and swapped some members out and needed some new blood. And she came in, and she loved
a man, correct?
Lindsey a man. Yes. And you know what I think you would like? I think you would like to see. I think maybe I would like to watch with you so we can freak out. You know the song Silver Springs that she sings?
Possibly. Okay.
Well, they did a 1997 or 1998 concert special. I think it was on VH1, because they broke up. They all fucked each other and did a lot of drugs, and then broke up. And she had a very successful solo career, got sober, and they got back together to do, like, because Clinton used Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow as his 92 campaign song, which was a song they wrote about divorce.
Thinking about tomorrow.
I remember that one. Remember? They got together to, I think they played like either the DNC or the inauguration or something. So cut to, people are like, you're good, get back together, you can make money. So they did. And they did this concert special called The Dance, and it was Fleetwood Mac live. And they have one of their songs has had back in the 70s the USC marching band on it, and they got the 1997 USC marching band to come out and do it. And it's great, but there's this performance which is very incredible. Stevie Nicks, it recently went viral on TikTok because a young person found it and was like, oh my God, watch this. Because she and Lindsey had a very tumultuous relationship. And so there they are, and she's singing this song, which was supposed to be on their not their most successful, but their most beloved album. It's called Rumors. But and Stevie wrote it for that. They didn't want it. It ended up, maybe it's like a B-side in a later edition or something. Well, this song has now been a big fucking hit for 30 odd years or whatever, however long ago 1998 is, because they did this live version of it, the song that had really been neglected to that point. And he just looks at him like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, motherfucker, and starts stalking him on the stage. And it's like you really see a lot of power there. And in The Wild Heart of Stevie Nicks, the Rob Sheffield audiobook, which I said I was going to talk about, now I am, because it is good. He talks about how she talks about that, about how she was
Okay.
like, in that moment, I was like, I'm doing this performance. I can use this anger that I felt. I can bring it up, this anger about the song being rejected, about the relationship, and I'm just going to go in. And it's very clear when you see it. You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa,
That's
whoa.
amazing.
Yeah, and he
So,
used to be hot, so I get it. Like they were both hotties. They were
right.
dramatic hotties. And then they kicked him out of the band a couple years ago.
Right. That's when the Fleetwood Mac episode was done, when all that drama was happening. And whoever talked about Fleetwood Mac, wish I could tell you who it was. I feel like it was Walkinshaw. I don't know, Canadian comic. Could be wrong. I think I am actually. I think I'm wrong. Here's the good thing
Sorry,
about the Dork Forest.
Walkinshaw.
It's feel free to Google Fleetwood Mac, Dork Forest, and then you'll find out. I may do it later. Let's talk about Circe. What is that?
Oh yeah, Circe by Madeline Miller, a beautiful book. Oh God, it's so good. It was a big bestseller. She wrote Circe from Circe, who was a witch in Greek mythology, a sorceress who
would not be believed, if I remember correctly. Was that her, or is it
no,
someone
close.
else?
Cassandra. You're very
That's
close.
it.
Same
Cassandra.
person. Yeah, your brain picked the C out and knew. I like when our brains do that. Like our brains, they do know. Like
Mhm.
deep down, your brain knew, but it was like searching for the connection. It said, "See, that's the connection." I think that's so interesting. No, Circe was a sorceress who lived on who was the daughter of Helios, the sun god, and Helios was allowed to stay the sun god after Zeus and his siblings and friends defeated the Titans. Helios was like an older god, and they said, "You can stay." And Helios had a million different kids, and one of them was Circe, and she was a witch, and he got mad at her, so he said, "Get out of here, you have to go live on an island called Ayaya." And so she had to live on this island. It was enchanted, and Odysseus washed up on shore with his dudes during the Odyssey, and she was like, "I'm going to turn you fuckers into pigs," and he was like, "But not me." And she was like, "You have to be here and be my boyfriend," and he was like, "Okay." And then she unpigged the guys, and so it's like there's like they had a kid, and so this is written, from the point of view of Circe herself, and it's really great.
Sort of like the Wicked of Circe.
Oh, it's giving Wicked Circe up and down, honey. And let's see who read
I wonder
this.
they should make it a musical.
They really should. I bet they'll do. I have no doubt that the film rights are like tied up right now, and that I really hope one day it becomes an amazing film or TV miniseries. I want to tell you who the narrator is because I want to give credit to these people.
But I want to say this is that Madeline Miller.
It's Perdita Weeks. Oh, sorry, Jackie. I just stepped on your joke.
It wasn't a joke. It was going to be a sincere comment.
Okay.
So, but say who it's read by.
Perdita Weeks, a fantastic English actress. Perdita Weeks. She's amazing. I used to be on Twitter and I fangirled. I found her. I fangirled out on her. A beautiful job.
Twitter was nice.
When Twitter was nice. I'm on Blue Sky now.
And Substack. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking with Sara J. Benincasa.
Hey.
It's Sara J. Benincasa. Substack.com.
Or Sara J. Benincasa.substack.com.
Oh, wow. So many dots.
So many
good for them. Good for them.
It's a newsletter. It's a newsletter called Serotonin.
What's the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning? What the hell is that?
Let me tell you something. It is read by the incredible English actress Juliet Stevenson of many movies. It's by Margareta Magnusson, who describes herself as being somewhere between the ages of 80 and 100. She wrote a book called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, How to Free Yourself and Your Family from a Lifetime of Clutter. She had 5 kids. She's buried a lot of people in her life, older people, and she decided along the way, including her husband, and it's so sad to hear her talk about it. And she decided along the way, like, I'm going to make this easier for the people who come after, because her mother made it easier for her. She went in to look at her mom's stuff and found that her mom after her mom passed away, her mom had put instructions and pinned things with little notes that said, this goes to the charity shop, this goes here in Sweden. And her father, she had didn't, and so she had to clean out a lot of stuff. And one thing was that he was I forget what his job was. I think he was a doctor. He was a doctor. And after her dad died, she had, a little kid or two, and she's stressed and sad and grieving. Mom hadn't passed yet. And this is her first big sort of death that she went through. And she's going through his desk, and she finds in the back a piece of arsenic, which he had kept during World War II, as a lot of people did. They kept suicide implements, trigger warning. I'm not joking about trigger warning, everybody. I'm sorry I didn't introduce that. That's a hard topic for some people, but we are talking about a historical situation. And a lot of people in these countries that feared they would be occupied, and in fact, and some were, and some went through it. They died by suicide rather than submit to Nazi rule and to the torture that would have happened. So he was one of those people. He never took it out. So this guy dies. It's like what, the 70s by this point, or the 80s. She finds it. She's like, what do I do with this? And it's in a chapter. It's like, what do you do with it? It's a chunk. I didn't know it came in chunk form. And she also, she's very funny. She's an older, elderly woman, and hilarious, and talks about, she couches it in humor, and she's like, you might find a dildo and you should be happy for your parents that they had fun, but just think about your kids. If you have any, you might want to get rid of stuff like arsenic and dildos.
Good for her. So
very cool. And it's a TV series now. And my friend Greg Poehler, who's a stand-up comic, produced by stand-up comedian and Swedish resident Greg Poehler of Massachusetts originally. It's called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. It's a series. It's on something. It's probably, I don't know if it's on Peacock or what. I don't know.
But the show is actually called The
Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning.
Wow. They didn't clean that up.
Nope. And sorry, Jackie. I'm just such a babble mouth tonight. I'm so excited about audiobooks. It's even Dork. Like blowing out the mic.
Plug and play. Patrick Brady he'll bring it down a notch. He'll clean this up. Thank you, Patrick Brady. He will volume level. Maybe he'll noise product. We don't know. He's got audacity skills, that Patrick Brady. It's a delight.
I have like 3 Audacity skills, and I'm not very good at them. I do have a new podcast coming out at some point in June called Social Anxiety Variety Hour.
Okay, that's in like 2 weeks.
Maybe it'll be in like 3 or 4 weeks. Who can say?
Who can
at some point in June.
Just go to Substack and check it out.
Yeah,
you'll go to Instagram. You will be alerted. That's Sara J.
You'll be very alerted. You can also go to Instagram. Social Anxiety Variety Hour is the handle for the upcoming podcast, and I'm going to have Jackie Cation on the podcast, but it doesn't exist yet. But you can subscribe. You can subscribe to it. There's placeholder stuff.
You could pre-order. Something that may or may not. You get on the ground floor of this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What is the Daily Rituals Women at Work by Mason Curry?
Let me tell you something. There's somebody else who has a great Substack you should check out. Mason Curry, that's Currey. Mason's great. He lives in, I think, Asheville, North Carolina. He had a book called, I don't know, I think it was called Daily Rituals, Artists at Work or something. And he realized after he published it, and it's all about all different artists throughout history and what their daily routines were like. He realized after he published it, he was like, oh my God, it's so majority cis men.
Shit. Dudes.
And he said shit. And so he made the next one. It's all women, and certainly a sizable amount of queer women in there. And Daily Rituals, Women at Work. It's wonderful. I listen to it when I'm just like, being an artist is lame, and it's very comforting because you hear about.
As much as I appreciate, it's the because was the first one just called Daily Rituals?
Yes. I think, or something.
Something just like that, and
mostly dude artists,
right. And it there's a stand-up comedy book out about the history of stand-up comedy, and Carol Burnett's in it, and that's it.
Yeah,
Phyllis Diller might be mentioned, Roseanne, maybe Joanne, like we're Joan Rivers, four women, maybe 6, and it's okay. But I'm never reading it because I've lived 1,000 dudes, and I have learned how to find them funny. Mm-hmm. I have learned to look for the similarities and thus be entertained. but I'm not going to read a book about it, about
Yeah, me
how
too.
where I've been written out of it. So yeah. Matter of fact, Jackie and Lori show, we did our Patreon, we interviewed Judy Gold
Oh, fantastic.
for the Patreon, which is just a half an hour where Lori and I interview. And Judy Gold told the greatest stories of stand-up comedy in New York in 1982. It's just a delight.
I used to watch her all the time on Comedy Central.
Right?
And
Right?
and I dig Judy very much. Judy, Elaine Boosler, early Wanda Sykes for sure. Who else did I watch? I'm
She
thinking of women I
mentioned
watched.
like
Butler.
a handful of names from the 80s that I had never heard of. Women
That's
who
really
went
cool.
either into writing or stopped doing stand-up because they didn't have wives to raise their children for them.
Yeah, because you need to
so
have a wife. Like you need to have someone who is your servant person.
Everyone needs a wife, you guys. That's why they're so popular.
Margaret Cho was huge for me, like as a much younger person. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like so many, and these people who I watched like influenced my sensibility around. I mean, obviously, like The Kids in the Hall, Mystery Science Theater 3000, like there were different things that really influenced me that were the sketchy stuff. But I was not really into, that world. I never was into like writing sketches really. But I tried it here and there, but it wasn't for me. But the women who had these incredible comedic voices really knocked my socks off.
Mary
Jackie
Jo
Cation.
Peel. Mary Jo Peel.
Oh yeah, yes. We were in a room together.
Mary
Jo Peel and I were in a room together for Mystery Science Theater 3000, season 13.
She is a delight.
Available on gizmoplex.com.
Oh, there you go. And what about, so a couple of these are sort of like how to write or encouraging writing and encouraging the creative situation, including that the one that was in between Malcolm X and Stevie Nicks.
Creative Quest by Questlove.
That's right. By the Questlove one, yeah.
This next one is very much in that vein.
Right.
This is The Creative Act, A Way of Being by legendary producer Rick Rubin.
All right.
And this is
what has he produced?
Book. Oh God, everything from Jay-Z to the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, to just too many people to Beastie Boys, too many people to name, like just
but all music
of excellent, all music, all excellence.
That's cool.
He's great. He's got a podcast now that I will listen to eventually. And this book is beautiful. It is all about creativity, using lessons from not just from music, although he focuses on that, but sort of across disciplines. And it's very meditative. I think the chapters, I believe there's like the sound of a gong or a bell in between them, I think. And yeah, Rick is just, the first time I found out who I even knew who he was because he produced hip hop and I knew his name, but then I saw my favorite music documentary, which is 2003. It's called Fade to Black. And it was about Jay-Z's alleged retirement album, Black Album.
He's a shitty retiree.
Yeah, and everybody in it at the end of it is Pharrell being like, he can't retire, he's not going to retire, and it's like, no, he didn't. But there's a fantastic scene in there where they go to Rick Rubin's house. I think he has multiple houses, but this was one with the studio in there, and like Rick Rubin's upstairs doing a Tibetan freedom concert, like strategy discussion with the Beastie Boys, and then like Jay-Z's downstairs recording for a Black Album, and it's so inspiring and it's so fun. And just to see Rick Rubin get down there and like talk to, I forget if it was Mike D or who it was, he talks to one of the Beastie Boys and he's just like so talking in awe, like in whispers about what Jay-Z is doing. It's very cool. But so Rick Rubin is a legend, and he's a great audiobook narrator. He narrates
his own book.
Very soothing.
Oh, really? He's got a voice as a stick of butter. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. He's a Buddhist, relaxed Jewish man originally from New Jersey, I think, who's lived in LA forever and ever.
Wow. Last week's episode was with Mike Kaplan about Buddhism.
Oh.
Yes. And when I talked to my dad, of course, he thought I said nudism.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, that could be a Dork Forest.
someone into nudism.
Was your dad excited about the nudism interview?
He was interested to find out. We didn't go into it. That's one of the things I like about my dad, is he rarely talks to me about anything where he's not wearing clothes, or he's getting some action. This is something
he wears clothes around you, and he does not do dirty things with his lady around you. That's great.
Right. And when I was a child, it was it turns out, kind of a jackass. Kind of. Well, I bet you my mother and my stepmother thought not even kind of, but it never came up. It's one of the great things about
That's great.
He as much as he was around, when he was around, he was a great guy. So
when you are shielded from the shitty behavior of your father growing up, it allows you sometimes to pick a decent man if you're a woman who dates men.
Oh, right. Except it still took me as my sister said about Andy Ashcraft, if you're going to wait 17 years to get a boyfriend, Jackie, that's the one. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Thanks.
And he is great. Thank you.
He is great. He's a delight. So how about this Leonardo da Vinci?
Oh, I lost my mind over this one.
Andy.
Oh, hey, hi. Oh, it's special guest star, Andy Ashcraft. Hi, Andy Ashcraft. That was such a children's television superstar moment. Hi.
He's wearing this state. It's a morning. It's a
I
children's television cameo, is what she said. And he's wearing the special staycation tour.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God, that's a brilliant name for a tour.
That was my album that 800 Pound Gorilla just told me they'll give me back the rights to. So I win, and but I don't know what it'll mean for Amazon and iTunes people who bought the streaming. I assume that they should download it and burn it to a CD. I don't know what they should do, but they should do something real with it, because I think it's about to get removed because distribution rights have gone the way. Leonardo da Vinci, Walter Isaacson.
Fabulous. Read by Alfred Molina, the great Alfred Molina.
Oh, I've even heard of that person.
Oh, yes. He was Doc Ock.
Oh, was he Doc Ock? I know who that is. Thank you very much.
Doc Ock. Yeah.
For referencing.
We have a buddy who's in common with him, but I've never met the man. And Doc Ock and many other things. And he narrates Leonardo da Vinci by Walter Isaacson, which I loved. And I was just like, this is blowing my little Sicilian, New Jersey mind. Like, holy shit, this is so good.
And this is a biography of Leonardo da Vinci. Is that what the scoop is?
Oh, yes.
I understand he might have been gay.
Well, he, I think, probably did some butt things with people who also had dongs and identified as a man. And he was a dandy, and he was very flamboyant in his dress, and he was handsome. And Michelangelo didn't like him. And Michelangelo was depressed and angry and weird looking. And Leonardo da Vinci was hot, and I probably would have hated Leonardo da Vinci too, quite frankly, if I were Michelangelo. But yeah, he was like the golden boy.
He was the golden boy, and Michelangelo was like, but I'm better. And you're like, no, you're different. You're both great.
Yeah, it's like every pair of male comedian rivals we've ever been friends with. The same shit, where they're like, where's my boy? And then like when they have a few, they're like, I just don't understand why. And you're like, shut up.
But Ben Affleck and Matt Damon like each other. All right. So they are not.
Because they're both handsome. That
does help. That does help.
They both have pretty privilege.
Oh my God. And we're back to Frederick Law.
Genius of Place. This is a wonderful audiobook by Justin Martin.
Okay.
Let me see who reads it, because we want to give credit, because I can tell you from sitting in those booths doing it twice, you spent a lot of time looking at these words, and these people deserve credit where credit is due. Come on, Justin, who narrated your book?
So this is Genius of Place. It is the life of Frederick Law Olmsted, which is the previous episode with Sarah Jessica Benincasa. Sarah Jessica Benincasa. Is your middle name Jessica?
Oh, no. I was not given a middle name, actually. But because my dad's family, they didn't do that. we were allowed to pick our own because they knew that eventually Catholicism would indicate that we would get confirmed.
All
And
right.
so we got confirmed, and I became Sarah Juliana, and my brother became Stephen Xavier because he wanted an X. Oh, Richard Ferroni or Richard Ferrone. The Italian email wants to go Richard Ferrone, but it might be Ferrone. And he does a great job. This is 18 hours, 47 minutes about legendary landscape architect,
Wow.
abolitionist, and other stuff, Frederick Law stuff.
Outstanding. That's awesome. I'm
my
kind of
king.
interested. I wonder if I could talk my brother into buying. That's a nice long one. He might really like that one.
It's
Though-
very interesting. And you go on journeys and you go to the Civil War and you even go to China, my friend. You go to China at one point in that
I've
one.
always
You go
wanted
to
China.
England,
Mhm.
you go to Connecticut, you go to California.
Connecticut's
live-
okay. I don't
Yeah,
mind
it's fuck
Connecticut.
it. It's like it's
It's right
something
there.
something needed to be in between.
I think I did the Foxwoods. Did I do the Foxwoods?
You
Whatever.
probably did.
Sandman. We have
Ooh.
I have all the comics. We got the floppies. We got the illustrated ones that came out once a year. I gave them to Andy for his Christmas present. $100
they're so
with
great.
extra art. So how do they read Sandman?
Well, Neil narrates some of it, and then Neil Gaiman, author, narrates some of it, and then you've also got this spectacular cast of Riz Ahmed,
Oh, he
Kat
does.
Dennings, Taron Egerton, James McAvoy does the voice of Dream, Samantha Morton, BB Newirth, the fabulous BB Newirth, Andy Serkis, and Michael Sheen.
Indeed. I watched the TV show. It was a delight.
Yeah.
We read the comics. That was outstanding. It was one of the first, actually, I think Lucifer, which was a spinoff written by Michael Carey, Mike Carey, whatever. I was given 75 comic books. And he was like, I think you'll like it. I'm like, find me something a little shorter. And then I was given top 10 by Alan Moore, by Andy Ashcraft as well. So
love Andy Ashcraft. I really enjoyed the TV show Lucifer very much. And because Neil
you saw Sandman though, right?
I've seen some of it, and I need to finish watching it and saying that out loud. I'm like, should I have said that I had seen?
Oh, that's
I've seen. We have people. Listen, I haven't heard that album. We can't see all the
can't
things.
see everything. I've never watched Lady Dynamite, and Maria Bamford is my best friend.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, I've seen most of Sandman.
There you go.
But
I saw all of
I've read
Good
all of it.
Omens. I saw Good
I
Omens.
love Good Omens.
And
I
Good
can't
Omens was great.
wait.
I loved sort of the juxtaposition between Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, because Terry Pratchett, of course, wrote all those Discworld books.
Yes.
And the Discworld books are very, very silly. They have a political through line, which is quite it's there. The B line is don't be a dick. And society was created for community, right? So, but they're sitting on the back of a turtle, and he loves a pun. And so Good Omens is, and sometimes Neil Gaiman can be a little too dark for me, quite honestly. I get a little scared, like American Gods was intense for me.
Neil, the scariest thing Neil's ever, for me, I'm sorry to interrupt, Jackie, but that I have ever read of his that scares the shit out of me is Snow Glass Apples, which is a short story. It's a version of Snow White. I get very upset about it, and I don't know if I've brought that up to
I've read the children's
scares
books.
Me.
I've read a lot of his stuff. I've read almost all of his stuff, including some prose, but I have not read that. And because it's scary, I may never write it. But but what I liked about Terry Pratchett made his stuff sillier, and he made Terry Pratchett's stuff more serious. And it was a beautiful, I wish they had written other things together, and it made me read Terry Pratchett, and it took me about 6 or 8 Discworld books to get into it, just because they're hard to get into. And so, but once I'd read like 6 or 7 of them, I was like, all right, I'm in. And so I read about.
But you kept at it. You kept at it because it was meaningful,
right? And
to
so
you.
I probably read maybe between 25 and 30 of them, but there's a lot of them, and yeah, I wanted to read them. You're right. Like I plowed through it. I'd been told that they were so good. The same with like the Dresden not Dresden Files. I don't think it's Dresden. It might be.
I
But
yeah, I think so.
They start getting good at book 4. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about this thing, Agora Fabulous.
Oh, that's my memoir, the first book I wrote and the first book I narrated.
There you go, you guys. Agora, as in agoraphobia. Fabulous,
Mhm.
as in fabulous.
Oh yeah, you get to hear many intense tales that hopefully are funny. But I wrote it when I was what? It came out when I was 31. I wrote it when I was like, I'm 42 and a half now. But it came out, I wrote it when I was like 28, 29. It was based on a one-woman show I did called Agora Fabulous, which was based on stand-up that I'd done. And, I wrote it obviously when I was a lot younger than I am now, but I haven't reread it in years. And some things I would certainly change, but I'm proud of it. I think it's still a good read. I hope you
What
enjoy.
about-
And I'll read it to you if you want, and in audiobook form.
Right. And what about DC Trip? Did you get to read that one?
I did, and that was really fun. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I've never did an audiobook for Real Artists Have Day Jobs, another nonfiction book I wrote, and I've never done an audiobook for Great, which is Queer Lady Teen Gatsby. But those are fun books too. But DC Trip was a lot of fun to read because DC Trip was also really fun to read because not only is it like dirty, it's a dirty book. It's a book for adults about a high school class and high school teachers who go on a class trip to Washington, D.C. and dirty shenanigans unfold.
Oh,
There's
sure.
some fucking there's some puking.
Did they eat, pray, love themselves into Washington, into our nation's capital?
Oh no. They went on a school trip and there's sex and somebody throws a tampon in somebody's face, a used one, and somebody pukes after blowing somebody. That adult teachers do that after a Chili's in my hometown of Flemington, New Jersey, set in my hometown, and then they go to DC. It's fucking dirty as hell and it's fun.
So,
But
and is that fiction?
good times. Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
fiction. That's fiction.
I was like, because everything else was real.
No,
Great
is a novel. It's Queer Teen Lady Gatsby. DC Trip is a novel, which is wacky hijinks, and then imaginary hijinks, and then that was fun to Agora Fabulous, Real Artists Have Day Jobs, both nonfiction. But
yes.
DC Trip was fun to do for many reasons. I really liked the directors that I worked with on that one, but also one day during lunch, because I was there, you go in for if the book's like 70,000 words, depending,
Right.
they might block out like 4 or 5 days in studio, and it might be like 6 hours, and you might take a 1 hour break or something.
Wow.
So it's a lot on your voice, and you might end up sometimes they tend to block out more than they think you'll need. So you might finish it in 4 days or 3 days or whatever, just depending. But Sandra Oh was doing narration for a book, and we were eating in the break room is not big at this facility, and so I got to like talk to her, and I did not geek out about her acting, thank God, but I did get to say it was nice to meet her and ask her what she was narrating and talk about stuff, and it was fun. And there was
That's
another
cool.
narrator there, which was cool. Yeah, and that was also the place they had a plaque because Barack Obama recorded one of his audiobooks in that place too, so that was cool.
Yeah. Every time I meet an author, I'm always pretty proud of myself that I don't lose my shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and I had Cage Baker on the Dork Forest many years ago when it was not pre-recorded. The audio quality blows, but it's on Bandcamp, and she's my favorite science fiction writer
Oh,
of a
cool.
genre, and she is essentially from Los Angeles. Hates Los Angeles. You can tell in her books, which is not cool because I love Los Angeles, but she's very funny and very smart. And the books, the Company series, I've talked about it a lot on this program, the Dork Forest, because of how much I like Cage Baker and the Company series. But she has written 3 fantasy books that are also really, really good. The Anvil at the End of the World. Wait,
Whoa.
I forget, but they're really, really. And when I interviewed her, she said that she was only reading. She's since passed away. She had a brain aneurysm, but she finished her her series, which I always appreciate. And she she had damn it. The when she was on the show, she told me she was only reading Shakespeare and Terry Pratchett.
Oh,
Which is
I love that.
which is why I read Terry Pratchett and stuck it out. And she dorked out about the very first Ren Fair because she was there, and now it's too corporate. And so she was
Expect that she hated LA being from LA. I don't like it when people go to LA. If you move to Los Angeles and you're going to shit all over it and talk about how your hometown, I don't care if it's New York City where I live now, or Chicago or Paris or a small town. I don't give a fuck. Leave. If you move to a city that expensive and that, LA has not been cheap any time in my life. It's been cheaper than now for my whole life up to now, but like, get the hell out of there, because it's a beautiful, diverse, wonderful city of amazing people doing all sorts of things. But if you're from there, if you're from there and you don't like it, you've earned that. I have no qualms. You have done it more than I do.
You've done the research.
You've done the research by living there.
And it's hard to stay where you grew up, because you always have this sense of, whatever. Hey,
it's like you either have to go hardcore on hometown pride, or you are so sick of it and hate it. And I know people who've gone both ways in their tiny hometowns and in their big cities too, which kind of refreshing actually, to like know that whether you're from a small town like I am, or you're from some big fancy city, you can still go either way with like hometown pride, or being like, this place sucks.
Right. I hate Paris. I grew up there.
It's so
what
lame.
just happened? What just happened? Is it the croissants? And they're like, no, I like France. I just don't like Paris. And you're like, okay. I mean, I literally met a guy and he had grown up there. And I
really?
Like,
are you serious? And he was like, I don't like it. I don't
like it. He's like, I'm gonna go live in rural France because that's where I live. And you're like, well, you're a country guy. You would like to live where it's less crowded, and you don't like crowds. So that makes sense. Perfect sense. Okay, so the last one, you did pick a bonus one. We can probably get to it, but we're at almost an hour. But it's Bamford's. It's her. She read me several iterations of this.
I'll tell you why I liked this one.
How long is it?
And let me see. How long is Bamford's?
It's called You Are a Comedy Special.
You know what, Jackie Cation, is funny. The first time I heard your name said aloud, it was by Maria Bamford, because she was like on stage, and she was like, my friend Jackie Cation. And I just thought, I remember thinking, so I was like doing stand-up at the time, and I think I was on a show that she was on, and of course I was delighted she had dropped in. I was like, oh gosh, Maria is somebody I grew up watching. But I not grew up, it makes it sound, she's not that much older than me, but in high school or maybe college, I was like, holy fuck, this person is a genius. And she also started so young too, so there's that. But I liked the your name having all the K sounds in it and the A sounds, and I just was like, Jackie Cation's a great name. And then I was like, now we're friends. Isn't that weird? And I talk to you all the time.
Right.
It's kind of cool. I liked your name before I liked you. That's a good name.
Yeah, it's weird. She talks about me all the time, and I get a lot of cred for it. I talk about her, and I get emails that I'm Starfucker. And I'm like,
well, you fuck you, God, we shouldn't talk about it, but you are in a secret marriage with her, and you have several children, and they're beautiful kids.
Well, when I first started opening for her on the road, which was in, I think, 2001, and it was right after 9/11 that we really started working together. It had nothing
That's
to do
the fun time. That's the fun. I was just this is so random, Jackie, but I was just talking to Kimya Dawson, who's a wonderful musician, about right after 9/11, she and the Strokes went on tour together. It was Kimya's band with Adam, Moldy Peaches, and the Strokes. And I was like, what was that like? And I don't know if you guys had this experience. She said it was extremely cathartic for us and for the audiences. Like, it was a very special tour.
Yeah. And it was, but I opened for her still. And it's very funny when anyone ever called, like when I was doing it a lot more, when I didn't have enough of my own weeks, right? And she was great. She was working the road and we were grinding it out, but I would get a call and they're like, hey, I got a question for Maria. And I'm like, we're not spooning. I don't know what you think is happening. She's in her room. Did you call her? And they're like, yeah, she's not answering. I was like, well, then she doesn't want to answer your question.
But when you become, they think you're the hand of the king. And the king is just like, the king is your weirdo friend who you just like threw French fries at each other with. And you're like, I'm not in charge.
I can't answer. And it's always a delight because Maria was like, oh, just hang up on him. And I'm like, first of all, I want them to one day want to work just with me when you're too busy, and then I would get my own week. So I will not be hanging up on them. But I loved that she always gave me permission to just go, I know. What are we spooning? And but You Are a Comedy Special is actually really great. And it's a 15-step program
You have a
on how
comedy
to write
special.
an hour. Yes. Of
And
stand-up comedy.
I listened to it not because I was trying to write an hour. This was very recent. I don't do stand up anymore unless you pay me money and I come out of retirement and do a middling amount of work. It's probably not that great. Please do. I'll do it. Give me lots of money. But anyway, but like I listen to it because I like listening to, as we can see, things about creativity. I like learning how different
Right.
people's minds work when they're creating a thing. And
Yeah.
that could be a scientist, it could be an engineer. I mean, the parts about Leonardo da Vinci's
Yeah.
career when he was engineering bridges, fascinating to me because those cross-disciplinary learnings are important. And since, I used to do stand up and I really like Fana Maria's, I was like, I like her writing very much. Her acting is wonderful. And I was like, let me listen to this. And it was helpful in helping me. I forget what I was working on at the time that it helped me crack. It was not for performance. I think it was either like I was writing a script for some like gig I got at Netflix for like their YouTube. Like it was like a WGA thing, but it was just like a promotional thing. It wasn't like a scripted show, but I forget what it was. Or I was trying to crack like my way into like a novel idea, but it helped. Like just listening to this story about creativity, it's very funny and it's very useful too. Like that stuff helps me. Listening to Rick Rubin talk about music helps me.
Right. Wow. Yes. Well, I think that we have I love the summation of those that's what you like to listen to. You like to listen to creative
I
people
do.
and the creative process. And audio where famous or not famous readers bring it to life for you.
Oh, I wanted to say one more thing, Jackie. I want to give credit where credit is due, although he gets plenty of credit and he should to Dirk Maggs, who worked on all of the Sandman stuff. Like I haven't listened the Sandman audiobooks.
Okay.
And an incredible, like I think he was a director and producer. I'm not sure, but just that. Sorry. So yeah, sorry to interrupt, but it's important to me. These people work hard and they do great stuff.
That's it. And you work hard and you do great stuff. Everybody,
Thanks.
It's Sara, SARA Benin, BENINCASA, Benincasa, .substack.com, and also just at Sara J Benincasa on Instagram. It'll be in the notes. You have been a delight, of course.
Thank you. You're awesome. Yeah, I'm just happy to always hang out with you and be in your orbit like a real psycho. So I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for doing the show.
Oh,
and Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?